one of the worst things that could happen to you in life is some people say, I wish I knew my future. That's the worst thing, because if you know what's going to happen a year from now, it would be so much for your brain that it would collapse. So it's kind of like driving. You don't need to see the whole route. You just need to see far enough to get you there. So with business, you just need to do like the things that are in front of you, knock them out the way, and then you will get to where you need to go. But just handle what's in front of you one step at a time, and then you'll clear the path. But if you look at the end, it's too much. When I was in the Marine Corps, they would always say is adapt and overcome. And that's really true for life. You have to make adjustments along the way. If you stay with the same mentality, same software, the same everything, you'll get left behind and you'll get the same thing. So you have to make adjustments along the way. You have to change with it and like adjust to it to make the best of it.
Right. All right. Hi, Carlos.
Hey, how are you, Sudev?
Good. Welcome to Business Club.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure. And what we're trying to do here is trying to speak with a few business, small business owners, and try to highlight their business, and in the process get to know a little bit better and your journey so far, and what prompted you to get started, how far are you in the journey, and things like that. The whole idea is to inspire younger generation to get started on the business. That you're doing, and maybe they'll get some more ideas and say, we're interested in starting something different. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes. That's one. And of course, to give some insights to our fellow businessmen as well.
No, definitely. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's been a journey, obviously, within my first year. So when you start a new business, there's a lot of challenges that you come across, and
Right.
You just have to take those challenges day by day. So
Cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I did see your story, and I'd love to know, what prompted you to enlist yourself in Marine Corps, and then, talk to me about your entire story.
Okay, so a little about me. Obviously, I was born in New York City. My parents came to the United States from Dominican Republic in the mid 1970s.
Okay.
And we lived in Lower Manhattan, which is Lower East Side. I was born in the mid 80s, and from there I was raised in Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan mostly. And it was a good experience overall. Had a good childhood. I was in my first language is Spanish, and I was in English as a second language class till fourth grade and fifth grade. They took me out of the class and said, hey, we want you to take a test. And most of my classmates were Hispanic. And then I took the test, they scored real well. And I heard my teacher say among the staff, and then they said, okay, we're going to pull you out of this class, and then we're going to put you in another class. And then the other class with no Hispanic kids at all. So I pretty much went from that grade to a different culture, being among a set of different peers. And obviously growing up was unique. I had a lot of family with me. And then I went to the Marine Corps when I was 17. Actually, the recruiter had to come to my house.
Wow.
And I remember, he put his, hat down on the table. My mom was like, oh, wow, like he's going to sign to enlist in the Marine Corps. And, my dad was there, and they had to sign over. Like, it was like a big thing, and they had to get permission to make sure that, I was, one, that I wanted to do it, but that my parents would allow it as well. And it was one of those things a lot of people ask me as far as why I joined, and especially at that age. When you're in high school, especially, like a lot of people, you ask them at that age, they have a lot of visions, but they don't know exactly what they want to do. You ask them, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a doctor? You want to be a teacher? They say, I don't know. Not that they don't want, but I definitively knew at that time I didn't want to go to college. Nothing against college. I just didn't have a degree in mind that I wanted to pursue. So I was wishy-washy about it. And I remember back at that time, like the phones were against the wall, like, I don't know if you remember, they would hang the phones, and there was an address book by it. And then the Army recruiter called my house and said, hey, Juan, how would you like to join the Army? We're going to promise you $30,000 enlistment bonus, a car, all this stuff, just promising me the world. I went to the office. He was in his uniform. And I just thought about it and said, nothing attracted me to the Army. And I just passed on it. And then a few months went by. And this was like around after September 11th, because I enlisted in January of 2002. the Marine Corps recruiter called me, and everything he spoke to me,
Mm.
like as far as honor, courage, and commitment, like something like a virtue, like something bigger than myself to pursue. So that's really what attracted me to it. So my best friend in high school and I, we enlisted at the time, and pretty much the rest was history from there. I did my 4 years there. I was stationed in Cherry Point here in North Carolina, which is
Mm.
the air station, and then I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and then I came back to the States. Uh, went Came back to New York, back home, worked for Con Edison, the utility company, for about 5 years, and then I wasn't one of those people that grew up that wanted to be a police officer. I knew a friend of mine that I went to school with that he every day we walked home together in seventh grade, and he said, "I want to be a police. I want to NYPD. I want to be a cop." And I was like, "All right," but for me, it was more one of those things that I was fine in life, and then one day I said I wanted to do this. And living in New York, so much crime, like I just felt compelled to do it. So I applied to the police department, got a good score, but there was a waiting list due to the 2008 mortgage crisis. There was a bad
Right.
budget constraint in New York City. So while I was working in the utility company, one of my friends there said, "Hey, this is how the world is." He said, "Hey, one of my brother-in-law, he has a mechanic shop in North Carolina, in Charlotte." I had never been to Charlotte. I had been stationed in North Carolina, but I had never been here. And there were little signs in life that happened to me that kind of compelled me. One, before that happened, I had a vision. I was sleeping, and I had a vision that I had already applied to be a police officer, but I had a vision that I was arresting someone, but I wasn't in an NYPD uniform. It didn't show me the logo. It just was a black uniform. It was a police officer, but then I have NYPD. I would know. And when I was 10 years old, my grandfather, he worked security at a store, and he brought home to me, like I was 10 years old. He brought home like a Charlotte Hornets hat, the old logo. I
Mm.
was like, I looked at that logo, I was like, oh, there's a basketball team. And I was like, I just never thought of it. But as I got older, when I came down here, I connected it. And that friend of mine at work said, "Hey, you should come down here to be a police officer." So I came down, took the test. Uh, Pretty much like within months, the recruiter was like, "Hey, you should come down. We'll get you set up in the academy." So life changed that fast, and that was in 2011. That a decision like that was so pivotal in my life to coming down here.
Cool.
Um,
Very cool. How was it, the life at Marine Corps?
I would say, to be honest, it was easy for me because I mean, when you're 17, you're not injury prone. You have a lot of energy. You recover really fast. Like I remember when I was in boot camp, there were guys that were like 30, like going into the Marine Corps, and it was like 30 in Marine Corps age is like 30 is old. Not I
Yeah.
would say an old man, but it's a lot on the body. Like
Yeah.
people would get like broken legs, fractured arm, like their back would get messed up because a lot of what's being demanded of you and like repeated can take a toll. But at that age, I mean, and I weighed 128 pounds soaking wet. So I was pretty light, pretty fast. So it was, to me, I think the hardest part is I would say it's just the initial adjustment, but once you adjust, it's not hard.
Cool. So I know it's a life of full of discipline, work
Yes,
ethic, and things like that, right? How does that translate to your approach towards work and business?
I would say, and I'm going to put this in the context of my age at the time. When you're 17, 18, you're trying to find your way in life. A lot of times when you're young at that age, you don't know, like I said before, you don't know what you want to be just yet. So a lot of times it gives you a foundation as to where, like your ethics, like your moral values, honesty, courage and commitment, and all those things that make a person, the intangibles that you should have as a person. And
Right.
in the world of business, that's very important because if you don't have that sets your reputation up. So people see that you're not trustworthy, you're not a person of your word, then it translates over. But I would say in the world of business, it does translate. There's a lot of attributes that translate well.
Cool. And after this Marine Corps, what did you do, and how did you transition to some other services and things like that? So
Once I got out the Marine
yeah.
Corps, well, it was weird because before I left the Marine Corps, the sergeant major, which is kind of like, let's say, like the head person in,
Right.
in my unit, was pursuing me incessantly, like to reenlist. He's like, "You sure you don't want to reenlist?" I said, "No." I spent, no lie, like about a week. He wouldn't. There's like you had to sign a checkout sheet, so you had to sign. Every department had to sign you off that you were ready to go. Like if you submit your Kevlar, your M16, like anything that you have, you had to sign off that you returned everything. But this person wouldn't sign me off. He was incessant. Like he would say, "You need to stay, stay, stay." But my reason for getting out was back home. I felt that my parents needed me.
Mm.
And I think that was like, family is very important to me. So I felt that was one thing that attracted me, even though everything was going well in the Marine Corps. But the transition as far as itself, I would say that it's one of those things that I felt good about, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do yet when I got out. I just knew I didn't want to be there, not because I didn't like it, I just knew that I was needed more back home.
Cool.
There was a lot of, going on at home.
So, and you transitioned to several careers. And how did these experiences actually help you in your entrepreneurship journey?
I think a lot. Like at the moment, you don't, when you work a job, a lot of times you don't think about how it's going to help you 5-10 years down the line. But when you put it all together, like the person I am now, I look at all the previous employments that I have, and I would even tell this to my girls, like, I would recommend this to any young person, get you a job in like customer service. Because at the bare minimum, your customer is like the most important thing. Your client, whatever the case is, because if you can get past that and get that life skill, it'll translate well. So as far as working for the utility company, customer service, you have to deal with people, expectations not met, delivering on time, things like that. When you deal with people, having people skills to deal with persons on a day-to-day. As far as the Marine Corps, dealing with being structuring your business, managing your time well. That's an important thing of business, because you can mismanage your time in business. This is where you have your day set up and something can come up to where it would offset your entire day.
Cool. So you also talked about in person, you talked about, how your family background and other things influenced your decision. Can you also talk to us a little bit about your decision to come to Charlotte and what transpired that?
I think the police department, me wanting to be a police officer, really shaped it, because it's weird. A lot of people leave New York, and it's weird because I left New York in 2011. At the time, it was foreign to even come to Charlotte. Like you talk to people in New York now, a lot of people have left within the past couple of years. I have cousins of mine that have left, other families that have left New York City, have gone to other states. But at the time, that wasn't the case for me. I just knew that I wanted to do law enforcement, but I had that thing in my head that I had to go here. I don't know, it was God or something pulling me, but something told me that that wasn't the place that New York was I had to be. So I left there, but there was nothing saying like, New York, I got to leave, whatever. There were things were happening, signs that things were on the decline. Yeah. But even since there, I love New York City. I mean, that's where I was born. It's my home. But things that brought me to Charlotte, I think that was the main thing. And Charlotte is the type of place that you learn to love. Like it's a beautiful place. Like people that have never been here, it's the streets are very clean. Like as far as the epicenter, the people are very nice. There's peace. I find there's peace here in Charlotte.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I mean, we were in New Jersey and we moved here in 2013, and I couldn't find a better place than this. I mean,
and the taxes over there, insane.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, let's just talk a little bit about your core business, which you just launched, Bookkeeping Charlotte. Is that right, Charlotte South?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about that and your decision to start a bookkeeping business, or if you can
definitely. So Bookkeeping Charlotte South was started in June of this year. My decision to start a bookkeeping business, a couple of reasons are more selfish, but others are more related to my previous role. So prior to opening the business, I worked in banking. I worked as an anti-money laundering investigator.
That's great.
So a lot of what that dealt with was looking at KYC, know your customer, their profile, as far as what they do for a living when you onboard them. Looking at transaction monitoring, and looking for suspicious activity related to AML, anti-money laundering, where the money's coming from, where's it going.
Source of funds.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And then, I would look at transactions, Excel sheets. So kind of like bookkeeping. I mean, you did reconciliations of accounts. Yeah. You categorize a lot of the transactions where they were. The only thing that we didn't do was obviously provide financials, because you're looking at clients. But one of my reasons too was, at the time I worked remotely, and then there was this big push to come back into the office. And me personally, I mean, as far as and I'm very appreciative to previous employer, Ally. They were really good to me. But me personally, I liked working remotely, being that it allowed me to care for my family, my kids, and just my schedule was a lot better. But this business allows me to work remote. I mean, the only thing you really need is obviously a computer setup. If you have Zoom, you have a phone line, you should be set. And if you need to meet clients locally, you can do so. But those are some of like the main big reasons. But
Right.
I feel that bookkeeping is more aligned with my previous skill sets. They match really well.
Cool. So this is your franchise that you've taken over.
Correct. I'm a franchisee. Yes.
And your area is limited to the South Charlotte?
Correct. Yes, the Charlotte area. Yes.
Charlotte area. Okay.
We currently don't have a franchisee in the northern part of Charlotte, but if that happens, then obviously that would restrict me to that. But I can obviously take clients anywhere as long as it's not specific. There's a franchisee that covers that area.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, what inspired you to take the franchise from Bookkeeping itself? And Bookkeeping is spelled as BOOX.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So, what inspired you to take that particular franchise as opposed to some other that's out there?
One of the things that and the founder Max Emma, who's the CEO of Bookkeeping, mentioned, and this sticks to me to this day. I could have easily opened up my own bookkeeping business, just not set up through any franchises, done it on my own. But the big analogy is that, you can open up a place to flip burgers and make hamburgers, but you won't be McDonald's because they have, like they say, the devil's in the detail. Like you can look at two businesses, but the little things, like the little decision making is really what separates one business from the other. And I don't want to make mistakes early on. I'd rather have the franchise there to guide me and say, hey, this is a proven system. Do this, don't do this. And I'll get where I need to go, making less mistakes along the way. As far as if you do your own business, say, hey, I know everything, and then you encapsulate yourself, then you're going to make a lot more mistakes and potentially get discouraged.
And, I have a couple of questions regarding that franchise. If somebody wants to start a bookkeeping franchise, what kind of investment you would expect them to make initially, and what's the kind of returns that they can expect? Or in other words, what's the royalty that you pay and things like that?
I would say, we're not getting too much into detail, but I would say the investment is at the moment, and don't quote me specifically on numbers because these change on the website. It can be anywhere from about 20 to 40K initial investment. The fees associated are 10% royalty fee. But as far as the figures, it is definitely substantial because with bookkeeping, there's a low overhead.
Yes.
And a lot of your clients are recurring clients. As long as you have your client and you manage your client, you can potentially just continue to grow.
Are you allowed to price it on your own, or is it?
Yes.
Do you have some guidelines around the price?
Yes, you can price it on your own. So I think that's a really good thing as to where you don't have to stick to their pricing.
Okay. So they care about the 10% royalty, whatever you charge.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. And can you give, and you don't have to tell the details if you don't want to. Can you give a little bit of pricing from your perspective when you look at a client? I know, of course, every client is different. But in general, can you give us a guideline on what the pricing looks like?
Definitely. So most of my clients, I would say I deal with are solopreneurs. Like it's just a, one person show. They're doing everything. They're doing the marketing, sales. They're running the business on a day-to-day. And a lot of times with very small businesses, they don't really have a lot of transactions. And I deal mostly looking at monthly transactions. So when it's not a lot of transactions, you have to consider your client. So most of the time with clients like that, I do mostly quarterly bookkeeping, which doesn't require looking at a person month to month, as to where if it's a larger company, you have hundreds of transactions that need to be looked at on a monthly basis. So in something like that, it's really, really affordable. I can say that.
Very nice. Okay. What are some of the common mistakes that the small business owners, I would say someone like, let's say like solopreneurs, right? They make while making sure that their books are, tabulated or reconciled and things like that?
I would say the two biggest mistakes, and some of them are not done on purpose. It's just by time. I'll say one, commingling funds. Sometimes they have their business debit card. They go out, it's not a business expense and they go out to eat. So keeping the expenses separate from your personal to your business. And the other thing I would say, which really is one of the main reasons to really bring this service to others, is you want to work on your business, not in your business. Meaning that if you're wearing all the hats, potentially yes, you can do your own bookkeeping, but think of all the hours that you can use based on if it takes you 7-8 hours a month. You could take that time and dedicate it to actual earning money in your business for doing an administrative task that is going to take you a lot longer. The potentials for mistakes are a lot higher. And if you have a month that you don't want to do the books that month, you may miss a transaction that should have been categorized. For instance, let's say you go to you pull money from the ATM and you make a purchase, and months have gone by. Now you're wondering, I pulled out X amount of money. I just don't know. I pulled out $800. What did I spend it on? Was it business? Was it this? How do I categorize this? Can I deduct this for my taxes? Like things like that. So having someone dedicated, if I call you as your bookkeeper and say, hey, Sudev, you did this transaction last week. Oh yeah, I remember. As far as where months go by, I don't remember. And then you're kind of wondering what it is.
Right. So what tools do you use? Like I know a lot of people use QuickBooks.
That's what I use.
That's what you use as well. Do you use other tools too?
There are other tools.
Like Xero?
Yes, correct. And obviously with Bookkeeping, the franchise itself, they're very versed in it as well. So if there's something that I don't know and I'm not knowledgeable, then obviously I can ask someone in the staff that can guide me along the way.
So how does QuickBooks Online compete with your services? Because QuickBooks Online, if you hook up your bank and card and things like that, a lot of those categorization is done automatically.
Correct.
Right? So how do you compete with them, or you just stay complementary?
I think the main thing is, and I think I've mentioned this before, is that when you have bookkeeping, a lot of times is categorizing your transactions. You want to set up a good chart of accounts. For instance, there's a lot of like information online nowadays on social media that say, and I'm not anyone in particular, I'm just showing an example, but like people say, I can deduct haircuts or something like that, like giving bad information. Like you want to make sure that everything is categorized correctly. So when you go to your CPA or your tax preparer, say, hey, this is what I have, and they'll know what to deduct. As far as if you just do it on your own, there's a chance that you'll know these things, which is, perfectly understandable. And I don't think that the learning curve is huge. But the main thing is that if you don't have a good chart of accounts set up, then you potentially are going to categorize things where they don't go, and there's a missed potential for maximizing your deductions.
You talked about AML, anti-money
Yes.
laundering, and then you talked about fraud detection and things like that.
Yes.
That's been your previous work experience with the
Yes.
bank that you worked before. How do you see overlap between that and your bookkeeping business?
It overlaps very well because think about it this way. You're a business owner, right? And you're running your business on the day-to-day. And you put enough faith in your bookkeeper to say, hey, just make sure my books are good. But as an AML investigator, we're pretty much the first line of defense. Same thing with bookkeeping. If there's a transaction that looks egregious or out of place, or a transaction each month that shouldn't be there, or someone that pretty much you're paying to that isn't providing the services, you point that out to the business owner or to the client or to the bank and say, hey, you need to take a look at this here because this shouldn't be the case. You don't want months to go by and there's a transaction that shouldn't be there, and say, man, if only I would have directed my attention to that when it happened, I would have been better off. Because obviously in the banking world, I don't know if you know this, but you can dispute a transactions up to 60 days.
Yeah.
After 60 days, you're pretty much, you're on your own. But as long as you're within that 60-day threshold, then you should be able to dispute it. So that's a lot of things that you want to, timing is everything with transactions. You want to stay on top of them.
Now let's just shift a little bit gear and see how you develop your business, right? So you're a solopreneur.
Correct.
You're a consultant solopreneur, and you have all these businesses out there. You don't know where they are. How do you go about getting your clients? And once you get it, what's the process of nurturing them? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Oh, definitely. So as far as getting clients, there's a couple of different ways I go. One is networking, which is really important. Two, as far as the circle of people I already know. But a big one is really, I don't know if you've ever heard of Alignable.
Yeah, of course.
And
like
LinkedIn are very important, because with places like, if you look at all social media platforms, what I've noticed in my time, as far as just my short time of having a business, is that each platform is geared to a specific type of business. For instance, if I had a food truck business, I'm not going to set up a LinkedIn account. It's just, I would rather set up an Instagram, something that's more visual. I can show my work. Or if I worked in handyman or construction, you need to show your work.
Right.
In bookkeeping, I can't, it's a lot of I can't really show the work
Yeah.
because that's private information. But with LinkedIn, it's a lot better because you get to connect with CEOs and,
Right.
CFOs and people within the realm that I need to connect with in business, especially for who do I talk to in bookkeeping. So I think knowing which platform to go to is really good. But I would say Alignable is really important because you get to meet people. They have things that are called smart connects. I don't know if you've heard of that, to where you connect and they have these sessions to where 7 minutes you get to speak to a business owner, kind of like a speed.
Yeah, it's like a
thing.
speed networking.
Correct. It's kind of like, so
Online?
you're on Zoom. Yes,
Okay.
on Zoom. So you connect on Zoom, you speak to the business owner, and then next. So in an hour, potentially you could speak to 7 to 8 business owners.
It's more like breakout
rooms. Correct.
Okay.
Yes, exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yes. So have that. But I would say my biggest one is LinkedIn. I would say it's very good. And I think, and just to pitch, shout out to Business Club, that you have a very good session, or as far as a class on how to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is really good.
Cool.
Really good.
I'm glad you liked it.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to do more of those anyway, so that'll be helpful for small business owners. So I know you also participate in webinars and things like that. So what's the most that you enjoy in webinars and educational events?
I think the convenience. Obviously, a lot of times webinars, you connect through Zoom. Yeah. You can just do it from your office.
Right.
But the main thing is that it connects you from people from nationally. So you can speak to someone who's in California or in Texas, and you kind of, let's say I'm doing bookkeeping, but someone in another state is doing bookkeeping. We're not direct competitors, but we can, bounce ideas off each other. Hey, how's it going here? What do you do for this? Right. So it helps me speak to someone who's in my similar shoes and can kind of like, I can get their perspective and they can get mine.
So let me twist that question a little bit. So do you attend webinars that are specific to bookkeeping, or you attend webinars of different subjects that aligns with your business?
I would say different subjects that align to my business, but sometimes you get a business that is very similar. That's, for instance, with bookkeeping, the industries that are most related to bookkeeping would be tax preparer, CPAs, and financial planners. Kind of like it's all in the same realm, not specific, but they're all related to each other if you think about it.
Cool. You have a family.
Yes.
And then you also have networking and things like that. And then you have a duty to perform to your clients. How do you balance your life?
I think it goes back to the Marine Corps. Time management is very important. The main thing I do is that, I have my schedule for the day set up. Obviously, I have my obligations at home, which are, I get my girls to school every day and I pick them up every day.
How many girls do you have?
I have 2 girls. I have a 14-year-old and a 4-year-old. So one is in high school and then the other one's in daycare. But I have my responsibilities, and in the in-between time and anything after I do pick up, I, spend time with my family. So I think the main thing is just having your structure set up. And I also think that's included with like emails. Like I do my best to not, if I can, not bother people on the weekend or on their evening hours, because you have to be respectful of people's time. Although, you can access someone, you can say, let that wait till tomorrow. And what's the point of receiving something now where you're going to ponder on it all night when you can just get a good night's rest, and then we'll deal with it tomorrow.
So walk me through a typical day of, entrepreneur like you who's busy with bookkeeping.
Well, the first thing of the day, because I am the type of person that believes that you can work for a day, but your brain capacity diminishes as you go out throughout the day, and the things that require the most brain power, you want to do it in the morning. This is just my perspective.
Yeah.
So anything that's to the utmost important, I do it in the morning. So when I get up, the first thing I'm gonna do is bookkeeping for any of my clients. I log in QuickBooks. I look through them as far as what needs to be done, categorize any transactions, check 1099s, and then I'll do that for the morning. Then from there, obviously, if I have a networking event like through Alignable, I'll do that. Anything related to social media, I'll do that. Usually I like to do networking middle of the day or in the afternoon, I'll do that. And just, respond to any emails, speak to any clients I need to speak to, follow-up questions and things like that.
So. Cool. So what are some of the challenges that you faced while starting this? Obviously, getting the first few clients is probably be the most challenging. Just walk us through the challenges and the opportunities that you've seen so far.
I would say the main thing is learning how to pivot. For instance, like when I first started the business, I said, this probably sounds like most people say, I'm going to do 100 cold calls a day and I'm going to do this, but you learn to understand that those things are not sustainable. What I've learned is that when you have a business, one, you have to be positive. You have to be positive. You have to, if there's anyone in your life that's negative, get them out. You only need good energy. The next thing is you want to have a schedule that you can sustain. For instance, I could do 100 calls a day, but is it sustainable? No.
No.
So what I do is I pick a number. I say, okay, how many cold calls can I do a day? For sure, I could do 10. 10 is easy. I could send, let's say if I have to send, 20 emails, I could do that. That's fine. Something, and there's days where, things come up, but for the most part, I try to set my schedule up that there's a bare minimum that I know I can do. And as long as it's kind of like making your bed, as long as you do these things every day, you've done at least the bare minimum. Okay, I can do this. And obviously the icing on the cake if you do anything extra, but having a set structure and like specific tasks to be performed each day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the lessons that you learned while you started your business and along the journey?
One is, that you want to make sure that, you pace yourself, that, success happens in little increments. It doesn't happen from one day to the next,
Yeah.
because the person I am now wasn't the person I was 3 months ago, 4, 6, last
Absolutely.
year.
Yeah.
You change as you go. Like if I were to look at a video of myself last year, I'd be like, wow, I'm a completely different person. I used to work at a bank.
Yeah.
The other lesson, obviously, like I said, you want to stay positive. The other thing is that, you learn new things every day. I don't have all the answers. If there's something I don't know, I'm not going to say I know it. Like I use my network, I use the people around me to learn. So being an entrepreneur is constantly learning because things evolve. I mean, you have technology, AI, ChatGPT, like there's things that you learn each and every day. So being honest with yourself and saying, I have to continue learning
Right.
to be better in my business, staying positive, having the schedule. And the main thing is, just stay on your course. Is what's that saying? A broken clock is right 2 times a day. So
Yeah, that's a good saying, actually. Yeah, it reminds me. All right. So, obviously you have a lot of pressure while you're both serving the clients as well as, managing your networking and other things. How do you handle the pressure?
I think the main thing is to take things day by day. Is what's that saying? How do you eat an elephant bit by bit? Like you can have a bunch of tasks, so you feel pressure, like, oh, I have to get this client's books done. I have to call this person. I have to meet with this person. Even doing this, like doing me showing up. So the main thing is that you take things piece by piece. One of the worst things that can happen to you in life is some people say, I wish I knew my future. That's the worst thing, because if you know what's going to happen a year from now, it would be so much for your brain that it would collapse. So it's kind of like driving. You don't need to see the whole route. You just need to see far enough to get you there. So with business, you just need to do like the things that are in front of you, knock them out the way, and then you will get to where you need to go. But just handle what's in front of you one step at a time, and then you'll clear the path. But if you look at the end, it's too much. It's too much.
So have the vision, but clear the roadblocks.
Yes.
Cool. Very nice. So if you go back in time, what advice would you give to yourself when you started Bookkeeping Charlotte? And what would you have done differently?
Honestly, the only thing I would have started sooner. I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Because a lot of times, like, like I said, I previously worked in banking, and it's good. It's good. You get your paycheck. Everything is great. But I feel that there was like a lack of fulfillment there, like long term. And I would say it's like just starting sooner, because it's like sometimes you can sit and ponder on something like, man, you have this idea. I want to start a business. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever your passion is. And some ideas die in the vine, and some, people pursue. But the main thing is just going for it. Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always take this example of Aryan. Aryan is a 22-year-old, Clemson graduate.
Congrats.
And he's soon to be maybe starting a new business. Example. So if he were to choose one business that he should take it up, why should he choose bookkeeping? And maybe give me like 2 or 3 reasons why you should go for bookkeeping. Not necessarily bookkeeping,
Mhm.
but bookkeeping as a business, and what are the skill sets that he need to have to make sure that he's on the right track, and he's constantly getting clients and things like that. So
Oh, definitely. Well, as far as speaking from my experience with, you can be a bookkeeper, but with bookkeeping, the unique thing is that if you start the business, you can, which is I'm doing now, is that you can decide to be the bookkeeper on a day-to-day basis.
mm,
But at some point, once I've grown big enough, I'm not going to be able to do everything on my own. Either I hire employees or go another route. But the main thing with bookkeeping is that you can hire
another
employees,
bookkeeper.
correct, within the company. So I
Okay.
don't have to pay payroll. I would just go
Yeah.
through bookkeeping. They have a service, a BPO service, where have they have their own call center. They have their own center to where they hire employees, and
Great.
obviously at a substantially a lot less, but you can have more time to either manage the business from the outside and pursue other things. But I would say the skill sets needed, I would say having basic set of math skills, just pretty much, if you know how to work in Excel, you should be fine. If you know how to do basic addition, remember bookkeeping, there's no division, multiplication, exponents, there's no PEMDAS.
Let's
Well,
say
there is some of it, but not all of it. But the main thing is a lot of things are through software, dealing with clients, having somewhat people skills, like to follow up with people, the sales component of it. The marketing is kind of taken care of within what is paid each month. But I would say the main thing is having time, because I've seen a lot of business owners that once they're successful, they say, "Man, I'm successful. I either retire or I'm tied to this area." Let's say you have a store and like, I have to be here. I can't leave. I want to go to vacation somewhere. I can't leave this location. The thing with bookkeeping is you're pretty much operating from your laptop. So you can
right.
be, as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can operate out of anywhere. So it gives you the flexibility of movement, and obviously working within your own hours. You don't have to be tied down to a specific time. I would say the only thing is meeting with your clients. You want to meet at regular business hours,
Right.
but the flexibility of time doesn't really require a lot of in-depth skills. Being a bookkeeper, you're not a CPA. I'm not a CPA, but
Right.
it requires, at the very least, knowing cash flow, knowing revenue, expenses, and things like that. So
Cool. So what are the pitfalls that you think you can advise for young entrepreneurs like him
I would
that I can
say
avoid?
the one of the main things are having the right mindset.
Mm.
And I think having discipline, and not necessarily just having motivation spur of the moment.
Right.
Like having the vision. Like, for instance, if you were to talk to him, let's say 10 years before, or let's say now, here's a simple question. Do you think you will be alive 10 years from now? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't.
Okay, basic yes. So if you know you're going to be around, why not take steps now, even if they're baby steps, to be where you want to be there?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, you're going to get there. It's just a matter of just putting like the little steps in place. And it's kind of like exercising. You build each day muscle memory. Because when I first did bookkeeping, it was like a lot to look at. Like, even though I have a lot of experience, but when you look at it, it's like, man, I have to get used to this. But I would say it's taking little steps along the way, staying positive. One of the sayings that my dad says, watch the company you keep. Like, your reputation precedes you. So if you have a circle of friends, especially when you're young, that are, like, if you can read a person and know they not saying a bad character, but if your instincts tell you that person may not be right for you, even if they're your best friend, like, you have to
Cut it out.
Yeah, character, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to know to, like, maybe I may want to separate myself long term, because people change. The person
Right.
you're at 20 is not the same person you're at 30, at 40. People change. Some people stay the same, but most people change. So I would say is that have good people around you, and like, if your instincts tell you that this person may not be right, move on and stay around like-minded people that can get you to the next level. Like they say, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah. So talking about that, you come from Dominican Republic.
Mhm.
Your mother tongue is Spanish. Is that right?
Correct.
So do you target that community as well, or are you not particular about?
I don't specific in that community. I don't specifically target that community, the Hispanic community, but obviously if it's there, I go out of my way to help them.
Of course.
So I've done, like, to try and target, but I don't want to
Yeah,
pigeonhole myself in
yeah.
that. I feel like I'm that's my culture, my background. But I was born in the United States. But if I see someone like that needs the help, I'll go out of my way to help them because I
Great.
feel like I'm doing someone that needs a service. I'm providing something of
Yeah.
value.
And it doesn't matter where they come from, right?
No,
So
no,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
No, no, yeah.
yeah. Cool. That's what I wanted to get out of you. So thank you. So a lot of military people or the Marine Corps, they they want to get into entrepreneurship at some point in their life. What advice would you have for them?
I would say everything that you learned within the Marine Corps, all the values will carry you. There are things as far as that's when I was in the Marine Corps, they would always say is adapt and overcome, and
Hmm.
that's really true for life. You have to make adjustments along the way. If you stay with the same mentality, same software, the same everything,
You got the same thing.
you'll get left behind and you'll get the same thing. So you have to make adjustments along the way, and that's part of being a Marine is that you have to pretty much adapt to any environment. You have to change with it and like adjust to it to make the best of it.
Right, right. So I know your background is military, I mean Marine Corps, and then you did a little bit of banking work with Ally Bank. But there are a lot of people who may not be from the financial industry and they're trying to get into the financial industry. So if you're from a non-financial background and then you want to get into the financial background or financial industry, what advice would you give them?
I would say specific to bookkeeping, they do provide training as far as
Yeah.
basic accounting training. But I would say in a situation like that is if you have no background, I would say probably take a job or some sort of role that you could test the waters. Maybe not specifically bookkeeping, but maybe within banking. But if you can, somewhere within the realm of bookkeeping,
Mm.
as far as doing payroll or anything like that, and then see if you like it, and then you can go from there. But I think with bookkeeping is very important, being that it's a basic service for any business. It can translate well to anything. But I would say to answer your question, I would say work in a field at least for some time, a couple months, and see if this is something that you want to pursue further.
Cool. Entrepreneurship is a journey.
It is.
It is not a destination.
Yes.
So along the journey, what are some of the key qualities that one must develop to become a very successful entrepreneur? I know it's been a very short journey for you probably, but still in the short period of time, I'm sure you would have learned some very, very important lessons.
Definitely. I would say that not all days are the same. You have to be resilient. You have to be focused on your purpose. Some days you wake up and say, pretty much the end of the day didn't go well for you. But you have to take it day by day. Every day you wake up, you have a new chance. It's like a video game. Like you wake up, new opportunity. You reset, they load the
Right.
game type thing. So if you have a bad day, put that behind you and say, okay, tomorrow's another day, and you wake up and it's a new journey. You get another chance to try again. So I would say is taking it day by day, just each and every day, and make adjustments along the way. If you said, I did this thing a certain way as to where I was networking here, let me try this other networking event.
Got it.
If I am doing advertising here, let me try this. Let me try to speak to this group here. So I would say being resilient and making adjustments and having the right attitude is very important.
Cool. So in your world, the bookkeeping world, what changes are happening that you know people are listening to you and people who are probably potential clients should know about what's changing in the bookkeeping world?
I wouldn't say in the world of accounting and booking in particular, I mean, that's an industry that really hasn't changed much. But I think most of the change is really with the software, with QuickBooks Online,
Right.
and obviously the introduction of AI for
That's
transactions.
what
I
I was
think that's what's changed the most, and I think it's a big help. I mean, I don't think it's a lot of people say that AI is going to come to take the jobs. It's like I think it's here to enhance because you
Yeah.
still need to interpret the data. You still need to have someone there to hold
There's
you by the hand.
humanization still. Yeah.
And even though there are people that can, but there are people that rather not. They don't want to deal. They just want to I just want my books. I just want to go to my tax guy and
Yeah.
submit what I need. But I would say not much changes. I would say the changes are really in the world of software. For instance, QuickBooks Desktop is no longer being offered. So everything is really just they're pivoting to solely on the cloud,
Cloud.
online, and kind of the way it should be. because you're paying for a service, a subscription month to month, and it updates with all the changes on its own. And QuickBooks Online is very good about providing training and support each month. So any changes that come out, they'll notify as far as any accountants and say, hey, this is what's going on and going forward.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about AI. What changes are AI bringing to bookkeeping?
I would say I love it. I mean, just for instance, with QuickBooks, whenever you have transactions that they feel that are like it pretty much, a small example, like if you have a transaction you're entering, it would suggest like, hey, you should do this. Like, is this what you need to do?
Recommendation.
Like, it pretty much learns like based off your behavior, like what you're gonna do. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but at least it makes those suggestions like, hey, you could do this to be. It provides efficiencies. It sees something that you're doing and say, hey, maybe you can make this a recurring transaction. Or maybe is this a vendor, because they see you went to this vendor a lot. So
Got it.
This client, right?
So does it do any kind of analysis while you're doing the, let's say if I'm entering the transactions and they see that some transactions have not been entered right, well, let's say, hey, this seems to be blunder. Can it be corrected? Things like that.
I think with QuickBooks for sure, it makes suggestions. It doesn't make the changes, but I think I like the fact that it makes suggestions, and you can just either go with the suggestion and make the changes or not. But I think it's a good thing. I mean, with AI, like I pointed before, a lot of people say, it's here to take jobs, but I think it's here to enhance our lives.
Oh, absolutely. There is positive sides, and I think the positives way outweigh the negatives.
I agree wholeheartedly. I love AI. I love ChatGPT. So
that's cool. There are a lot of companies out there doing bookkeeping. And what separates you from them?
Well, it depends the needs. For instance, if it's like you're saying, a solopreneur or a small company, the thing you have to consider is when you have a company is like, do you want to outsource this or you want to have an employee? There are pros and cons to both. When you outsource, obviously, the pros are that you don't have to pay payroll.
Right.
You don't have to pay health insurance. You don't have to pay any of that. Yeah. And pretty much they do the work for you. The downside, obviously, when you outsource is that pretty much is like they will do the work as far as with myself. Like I will get it done, but it's not, they say, hey, I want it at 5 o'clock today. Like I'll get to it because you're pretty much working as a contractor type deal. And then the other side of it is if you have a lot of transactions, your business that has a lot going on, then it's probably best that you do hire an in-house bookkeeper because there's just so much, you have a lot of invoices, accounts payable that needs to be paid at such time. You can't wait for a bookkeeper to do it. You need someone to be there, at all times to handle this. So it just depends your situation. But with a lot of people I've dealt with, it's usually that if they have their own business, they have the flexibility, but they would rather use their time and resources in another place.
Got it. So let me twist that question a little bit and then ask you on similar lines. Let's say you're targeting the solopreneurs and others, and there are bookkeeping companies in Charlotte, where they are performing the bookkeeping itself in Charlotte, and then there are people who have outsourced this to maybe the business is in Charlotte, but the performers are actually, I don't know, maybe Utah or some other place. And then there are people who have outsourced it to Philippines, then outsourced it to India, qualified people. So how do you compete against them?
I would say it just depends what you have. So for instance, if you look at any software and say, hey, we can do it for a fraction of the price, there's pros and cons to both. So if you outsource it to, let's say, India or the Philippines, you can have it done, but look at the time zone difference. If you want to speak to the bookkeeper, they're going to say, hey, you'll send an email, let's say now, you'll get a response 24 hours later. And then if you're going to respond to that response, you got to wait another 24 hours. Unless you send like a video or something, there's no live response. So there is a delay of time and the misinterpretation over, lines. But the other thing too is that having someone locally is always best, being that you can just talk to them and be put at ease. The other thing is that with bookkeeping, or just any bookkeeper, you want to make sure that you can talk to, the client CPA. Let's say at the end of the year, they're going to file their taxes and the CPA says, this all looks good, but I don't feel good about this, these transactions here. Do you know what this is? And most of the time the client's like, I don't know. My bookkeeper did it. Just pick up the phone. Hey, Carlos, what is this? Oh, this is this. I categorize in this. Oh, okay, I understand. Thank you. Simple. If you have someone in the Philippines, can you reach out to them? Because the CPA is not going to reach out to the Philippines to see who did your book. So There are pluses and minuses. I just think it depends on situation. But ideally, I think it's better to have someone that you can talk to. I think having that, I think we've gotten away, which AI is really good, but I think one of the best things in society is having good customer service.
Absolutely.
You want to have someone that you can call, like I said, to reach out and
Personal
say, hey,
touch.
Exactly. That's very important because people feel connected to that. So
Cool. So what's next for Bookkeeping Charlotte?
at the moment, we're just looking to grow, just, acquire more clients and continue to grow. But obviously I'm learning as I go. But really what's next is just to, cement myself in the Charlotte territory, just expand and see how I can help any business owners.
Good.
And yeah, just continue to grow.
Cool. And what legacy do you hope to leave for both from your personal perspective as well as business?
I would say on my personal life, I feel very satisfied. I'm very proud of my family, my wife and my daughter. So just to my legacy as a person is that, I was a person of, good ethics, honest, and did the right thing. I think that's very important. I think that means more than money, than anything else, because that will carry you through generations. As far as the business, my goal is to have an impact in the Charlotte areas to where they think of one of the top bookkeeping services or even the brand Bookkeeping that is known here in the Charlotte area.
Right. That's
To
cool.
say, hey, this is the go-to person. If you're just starting out a business or you have a small business, they can take care of you.
Yep. So before we enter into, the rapid fire questions, I want you to tell the audience how can they reach you and, your contact details if you'd like to share.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm mostly on most socials. You can obviously go on the website on bookkeeping.com, and I'm in the South Charlotte location. The best way to reach me would be through LinkedIn. You can just send me a message or you can just call me. Can I get my phone number out?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Definitely. So it's 980-467-2669. Just call me and, leave a message. Any questions in general. So if a free consultation, hey, I have a business, I have this situation. I may or may not be able to help you. Sometimes, it's always good to speak to someone, but the main thing is just to talk to them. But I would say that's the best way to reach me.
Awesome. So let's just get into the rapid fire questions. I know these are, even though they're called rapid fire, take your time to answer.
Definitely.
There is no pressure. Ideally, whatever you feel is appropriate for the audience.
Thank you.
So great. So what's your go-to productivity hack?
I would say ChatGPT.
And prior to that?
Pen to paper. I am the type of person that I like to write things on a list and kind of plan I plan my life out a week in advance.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. You like the tea in the morning?
Oh, I love the chai tea. Yes.
Very good. Okay. What's the last book that you read or audiobook that you listened?
It was an audiobook. It was Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent is I believe it's I forgot the name of the book. I think it's called I think Hustle Hard, something like that. But it's a really good book, being that I'm from New York and 50 Cent is from Queens. So there's a lot of like business lessons that are had there as far as dealing with people, which is very important.
Very good. So morning person or night owl?
Morning. I love waking up very early.
What time do you wake up?
4:15.
4:15?
Yes.
Particularly, and what time do you sleep?
Gym opens at 5.
Oh, okay.
10, and I usually in bed by 10.
Oh, so, very nice. Okay. 6 hours of sleep is good?
I don't go to the gym every day. I go 3 times a week. I usually sleep Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So
you sleep all days, but you sleep a little bit more on those days.
Yes, on those days, yes.
Very cool. Okay. What's your favorite meal of the day?
Dinner, because that's when everyone's gotten home safely. My wife is home. My kids are home, so I feel good. Like everyone's and we get to talk.
I love that answer because it's not the meal that you're focusing, it's the people that you're focusing.
Yeah, it just feels like everyone's home, like everyone's safe.
Family, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's here.
That gives you peaceful
Yes, it does.
sleep. Okay, very good. One piece of technology that you can't live without?
My phone, obviously.
Very nice. And favorite place that you ever traveled to?
I would say, I mean, as a kid, I spent about a year in Dominican Republic. So
That's good.
that's a biased answer, being that, me
I
and
would
my
love to
family
know
were
about
there.
it. Yeah.
But it's beautiful. I mean, from a small town, which is pretty. It's weird. A lot of people that have come from that small town say it's just like Charlotte. Like
Really? Okay.
it's a small. It kind of feels very like a small town
The
vibe.
whole country or
Well,
just
just that town, yeah.
that town? Okay.
So it's called Santiago, where it
Okay.
is. So yeah. So it's San Jose de las Matas.
Okay.
It's a little town. So yeah.
Very nice. Okay. What motivates you to get out of bed every morning?
Oh, just thank God I have another chance to. I'm alive. I got all my health, my mental faculties, my body, everything is good. So I'm always motivated to like see what the day has in store.
Nice.
I feel like mostly I'm positive minded, so I'm always looking forward to the day.
So this is a personal question. So Marine Corps or law enforcement, which one is tougher, or the business that you're doing?
No, I would say Marine Corps. The reason is that when you're in the police department, you go to the police academy, you get there, and then at the end of the day, you leave and go home. So there's an end to it. With the Marine Corps, you sleep in the barracks, so it never ends. You just have to be mentally sharp, and it's very tough. So I would say Marine Corps. And the business, I can't give an answer because I'm in it. But hopefully in decades from now, when I'm old and retired, I could answer that question.
Cool. If you were not in bookkeeping, what would you have been doing?
I think I've always been gravitated to, which is the food service industry. Maybe start a business like a restaurant.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. And then have your own bookkeeping tool. Cool.
Yes,
Cats or dogs?
I like dogs.
Dogs.
I just feel that they
loyal.
don't jump on your counter space. I don't feel comfortable with eating food that when you
Right.
cook that a cat can be in that premise. So I like dogs.
Cool. Any role model that someone who wasn't actually greatly influenced your life?
My dad. I love my dad. I think he's I look at him and I just see as like the type of man I want to be, because he's been a big influence in my life. Just the type of person he is.
Cool. Very nice. And any financial tip that you swear by?
Don't spend more than you make.
It's a great tip.
Yeah, that's very basic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Basic but great.
yeah, it is.
Um,
Live below your means.
how do you unwind?
Honestly, when I get home, we have a Nintendo Switch. So with the girls, we'll just play like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers. It is like
I love
one
it.
with video games. So
Okay, cool. What's your proudest accomplishment till date?
I'll say my family, just having that, having my wife and my daughters. Like I feel like having that just is something that gives me a lot of joy and fulfillment.
What's your favorite activity with your wife and kids?
I would say with them is just like going out to eat or just, watching a movie with them. Like it's not in the moment, but when I separate myself from the moment and I'm looking around and see that with me, it brings me good peace.
Tell me a few things that are there on your bucket list that you want to accomplish in the next couple of years, 3 to 5 years.
Obviously grow the business. That's one of the things that I want to do. But as far as places to go, I'd like to go to El Salvador. My wife's family, they're from El Salvador, and I've always wanted to go there. Bucket list in particular, there are little things that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to go to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Lord willing, we'll see.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received from someone whom you know or you read about?
I would say watch the company you keep. Very important. A lot of times you may know someone that you grew up with. Maybe, you grew up together, good people, and people take different paths. And even though they have a different path and they're doing this, but you're a good person, but you're friends.
Right.
Even though you're a good person and this person is not doing good things, they associate you. Like being with their friends, they probably do the same thing. So you'll be misjudged. So just make sure that the company you have around you is means well.
Cool. Oh, I always ask these last couple of questions. I started to ask some of the people who've been on the podcast recently. You've been to Business Club for quite a few months now. What do you like about Business Club? And feel free to answer this. And feel free to be as open as possible. Then what you don't like about Business Club. So first thing is, what do you like about Business Club? Second is what you don't like about Business Club.
What I like about it, I like the environment. Like I said, when I show up there, the first time I showed up, obviously, just my experience, I didn't know what to expect. I found it online. I said, it's Business Club with a K. But then when I saw there, I think this is what I got away from it. The way the business is set up, I feel like you use intelligence. I feel like intelligence is like knowledge. That's one thing you say. K is for knowledge. So what you're selling is, I feel, this is my opinion, that everything you're walking away with is going to make you smarter. Like you like they say, work smarter, not harder. So some people go to networking events just to network, to meet people. I feel like this is just to give you the edge mentally. And it's, related to chess club, like that's a game of strategy.
Right.
So business is a game of strategy as well. So I feel like the vibe I get is that what separates you from everyone else is that you'll walk away smarter, a better strategist, and like you separate yourself from competition. But I like the setting, I like the vibe, I like the way it's set up. You network for a little bit, you learn something every time you go, you walk away smarter. You don't want to go somewhere and walk away with less. You actually take something with you. And you say, hey, I learned this, I can incorporate it to my business. As far as things I don't like, I can't really say, because I'm pretty recent, but I haven't been there for a year, obviously, but I can't really say there's nothing that I don't like. There's things like this, like even, having this channel. Thank you for having me on your channel. But I think is that innovation, like you're willing to make changes and adjustments to grow. And I honestly, in 2-3 years from now, when this channel's very big, a lot of viewers that, they'll look down and see, hey, he was one of the first ones to show up. So
Yep.
Thank you for
Oh
the
man, my
opportunity.
friend, it was a pleasure
Thank you,
having
Siddharth.
you.
Thank you.
I look forward to having many more conversation. Wish you all the best in 2025.
Thank you.
And,
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to being a great resource to you, and I look forward to you being a resource to us as well.
Same. Doors always open here. So
Thank you. It was a great talking to you.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Hey guys, I hope you really liked the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. And we would like to reach many more small business owners. I would really appreciate if you can share the video with them as well. Thank you, and see you until next time. Have a great one.